better next season, Darnold or Purdy?
I think it's going to be Brock Purdy personally because he has Kyle Shanahan. It's really just that simple to me, and he's familiar with who he's playing for, and that's what it happens. Debo is gone, and Brandon Ayuk, who knows what his situation is going to be. I get that part. But in the end, Brock Purdy is working for a play caller, and he's very familiar with it's not new to him, and Brock Purdy can play. And so I just look at it from that standpoint. Sam Darnold threw for over 4,300 yards, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, completed 66% of his passes. And we get the fact that he had an absolutely outstanding season that warranted the big raise that he got. He's only making $10 million last year. He's now making, over 33. He's averaging over $33 million. Got a $100 million deal. About 33 and a half. And so when I look at it from that standpoint, that's ranks about 18th in the league, if I remember correctly, about 18th among NFL quarterbacks. That's about right. He deserves that. But do I think he's better than Brock Purdy? No, I do not. Do I think he's going to produce better than Brock Purdy? No, I do not. So my answer to this question is Purdy.
I still don't know what Brock Purdy is, Stephen A. And we got to see a little bit of the control in the experiment. We saw Brock Purdy when all pro players were all around him in his first 2 years as the starter. We also saw Brock Purdy last year when he underwhelmed and only won 6 games for the San Francisco 49ers. 20 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. I'll say this about Kyle Shanahan. I don't know that I can assign a level of productivity or confidence in the quarterback because he is solely the coach. Kyle Shanahan has as many double-digit loss seasons as he does winning seasons in San Francisco. And with all of the turnover that they're experiencing on the offensive end, they've already lost 3 starters from the team a season ago, and Brandon Ayuk reportedly being shopped. I just don't know who Brock Purdy is going to lean on when it comes to guys to get the football to take pressure off of him in the drop-back passing game. Christian McCaffrey is coming back. Well, we got to remember, Christian McCaffrey led the league in touches in 2023. The last time he did that in his career, he only played in a total of 10 games the following 2 seasons. So I don't know how much we can rely on Christian McCaffrey to alleviate the pressure that's going to be on Brock Purdy. You look at all the defections on the defensive side of the ball. They lost starters on all 3 levels in the first few days of the tampering period in free agency. So I don't know what version of the 49ers we're going to see, but clearly there's going to be a ton of pressure on Brock Purdy. And so I think that I'd have to side with Sam Darnold, not because it's necessarily just a sole vote of confidence in Sam, but it's because there are too many question marks for me to feel good about Brock Purdy in San Francisco moving forward.
Man, look here. The mere fact that Kyle Shanahan got to the Super Bowl with Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo, Candy, they should give him a ticker tape parade just for that alone. He got to the Super Bowl with Jimmy G. Now, you say you're uncertain about because Debo has been traded. Ayuk is coming off an injury. We don't know, and they're also shopping him. That's what's being reported. Christian McCaffrey, you're absolutely right. He had a workload last year, missed a bunch of games. But are we sure about Sam Darnold? Now, because last I checked, they also did. Justin Jefferson is not going to Seattle. Addison isn't going to Seattle. Hawkinson isn't going to Seattle. So with that being said, are we sure we know what Sam Darnold is? Now, we give him the benefit of the doubt. He's with the Jets. He's with Carolina. He was a backup at a couple of stops. But are we absolutely, categorically for certain, we know what Sam Darnold is? Now, I get it. They brought his offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak. His dad was my quarterback, and he was also my offensive coordinator, Gary Kubiak. So there is some familiarity that's going to be in his ear. But, they did trade DK Metcalf. They did release Tyler Lockett. So Jackson Smith and Jigba and Noah Fant is the only ones that are still there. So are we sure, Canty? Are you sure you know what you're going to get from Sam Darnold?
Well, I'm sure who Sam Darnold's going to be throwing the ball to, and that's JSN. You mentioned him in passing like he's a throw-in. You're talking about somebody that had – well, go ahead.
Justin Jefferson and Addison, what are they, chopped liver?
No, I'm not saying –
he had somebody to throw it to before?
Stephen A., this is a Purdy versus Darnold conversation. When did the quarterback in Minnesota become a part of it? I'm sorry, did I miss that part of the debate?
No. I'm talking about
you missed the part that's who he was throwing to last year. You're looking at Sam Darnold based on what he did in Minnesota. We're looking at Sam Darnold based on the totality of his career.
Yes.
Guys, I got that part. But what I'm telling you is I got more confidence in who Sam Darnold is going to be throwing the football to in Seattle than I do with Brock Purdy in San Francisco. That's what I'm sitting here trying to tell you guys. and the synergy that Sam is going to be able to have, continuity in that system over the last 2 seasons. Clint Kubiak, passing game coordinator of the 49ers. You mentioned that, Shay. Also, the scheme that Kevin O'Connell runs is going to be the exact same scheme that they employ in Seattle. So that muscle memory, that familiarity is going to bode well for them. And so I think that there are no illusions about what Sam Darnold is going to be in Seattle. That's why they gave him the enhanced Baker Mayfield contract. They're not looking at Sam to win the game for him. They're just hoping that Sam doesn't lose the game to him. And guess what? Throwing the ball to Jackson Smith and Jigba, you ain't going to lose a whole lot of football games. That dude is pretty good. And then, oh, by the way, the continuity when you have in the program, them being able to have a winning season in 3 straight years matters in terms of being able to get the most out of Sam Darnold. So I like the functionality of the franchise. I like what's around the quarterback, which is why I have confidence in the version I'm going to get from Sam.
They made a lot of. Go ahead, Shannon.
Stephen A. Can I say Stephen A? Stephen A. I'm hearing Candy talk about Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I think he's fine. But when did he turn into Jamar Chase? When did he turn into Jetta or CeeDee Lamb or Mike Evans or Tyreek? Damn, Candy, you like him that much?
Hey, I'm going to tell you something now. And you know more about receiving. You forgot more about receiving than I'll ever know. So I ain't going to never question your football acumen in that regard. I just know in the second half of last season, that dude took over as the #1 receiver in Seattle, so much so that the Seahawks were comfortable trading DK Metcalf to the Pittsburgh Steelers a few days ago. That's what I know.
Okay, that might be true. But now you remove DK. DK was getting the #1 corner. Now let's see what happens. We've seen a lot of guys be 2 and 3, and they're getting the 2nd and 3rd corners. And we saw that with Juju. You remember what happened with Juju Smith? When he all of a sudden AB left and he got #1 guy. You remember Alvin Harper? That you weren't in the league at the time, maybe you were. But you remember what happened with Alvin Harper?
Oh, yeah.
When all of a sudden he went with Playmaker and he took his ass to Tampa? Okay, I'm just saying.
Hey, who's the #1 corner covering on the 49ers offense?
It got to a point where Juju was seen more on TikTok than he was on the football field. I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. But here's the deal. In the end, though, Kevin O'Connell, we made so much noise about what a quarterback guru he is. I know you talk about Sam Darnold going to a familiar system, but he ain't the same dude that's teaching him. I mean, I think that it might be I don't expect Sam Darnold to look in Seattle the way we just saw him look this past season. That's my only point.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Remains to be seen. We'll leave it there, guys. When we come back,
Had Juju out there doing Corvette TikToks. Corvette. And it wouldn't crank no more in Pittsburgh. He had to take the show on the road. The Corvette wouldn't crank no more. Must have been cold or something. I don't know.
all right.
Mũi nữa này. Mọi người cứ lần lượt cho đến hết. Đấy. Tiếp nha. Mũi tiếp theo. Đấy, mũi cuối này. Rồi mình sẽ được một cái giải bình kép như thế này. Bây giờ mình sẽ móc. Tiếp theo mình móc một mũi bình đơn nhé. Mũi bình đơn. Rồi bây giờ sẽ móc xuống đây những cái mũi nửa kép. Đây, móc xuống này. Rồi móc mũi nửa kép cho mình. Đấy, siết chặt dây lại. Tiếp tục những mũi tiếp theo nhé. Cứ lần lượt cho đến hết. Đấy, móc tiếp vào. Mũi nữa này. Cứ lặp đi lặp lại như này cho mình là được. Đấy, được cái mũi nửa kép như thế này nhá. Bây giờ mình sẽ móc kín cái hàng này bằng cái mũi nửa kép. Tiếp tục móc nha mọi người. Mũi tiếp theo. Cứ lần lượt cho đến hết này.